You're listening to the Today's Eden podcast, episode 4. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm really excited for you to listen in to today's episode, an interview with Carly Roberson, founder and executive director of Champions of Hope. And this was just a really awesome episode for me, a really great interview. And maybe I say that about almost all of the interviews so far, but there's just something so powerful and encouraging about hearing women just like me, just like us, doing amazing things in the world, doing amazing things in the community. And that's exactly what Carly Roberson has done with Champions of Hope in South Dallas. And so I just would love and encourage you to listen to this episode and see what a difference she's making in that community and how she's impacting the lives of others. All right. Hey, Carly, thank you so much for being on the Today's Eden podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So the reason I wanted to have you on the show is because you're doing what I think is like a super awesome thing here in South Dallas. And I just felt that a lot of people could benefit from hearing more about this, what would you call it? Program?
Nonprofit ministry organization. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of different terms, but ministry to South Dallas.
Right. So you are the founder and executive director of Champions of Hope Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. Is that your official title?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So before we get started and dig into what Champions of Hope is, I wanted you to first tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of, what's going on right now in your life, just so we can get an idea of who Carly is.
Yeah. I am about to be 35 years old. I spent the first 18 years of my life in a really small town in Missouri called Warsaw, Missouri. It's where about 95% of my family still are. And then I went off to the University of Missouri in 2000, and it was just a couple hours away from home, but kind of a big deal for small town folk. And I studied middle school education, social studies, and science specifically, and also minored in Black studies because I was interested in teaching in the urban environment, and felt like a little bit better understanding of American Black history and literature and things like that would be beneficial for the environment that I wanted to teach in. And so I graduated in 2004, and I did teach for a short period of time in Missouri, and then was hired by the University of Missouri to come to Dallas, actually, in 2005, I guess it was, to kind of run around the high schools here in the Metroplex and let the high school seniors know about the opportunities at the University of Missouri. So that position was called a regional admissions rep, and that's what I did. That's how I got to Dallas. That's what I did for 3 years. And then through the Village Church, where I was attending and became a member, I started spending time down here in the South Dallas Fair Park neighborhood at a church down here, and was just kind of volunteering. And then that transpired into the full-time work with Champions of Hope.
So was there a specific thing that kind of made you think of, hey, this is the need that I see in this community, I need to create this? Or what kind of spurred on the idea of creating Champions of Hope?
Yeah.
Is that kind of a loaded question?
Yeah. No, I talk about this pretty often, and it's fun to kind of retell the interesting ways the Lord does things. But yeah, so through coming down at first, maybe just monthly here and there, in probably around 2006, 2007, to serve at a church down here. That turned into to being sometimes an every weekend thing on Saturdays with some kids at a church down here. And so I believe it was in 2007, the pastor of that church brought up to several of us that were pretty consistent in volunteering that some of the older kids, that would have meant like the 15, 16, 17-year-olds in the church could really use mentors, kind of like big brothers, big sisters, and people that maybe touch base with them more than just this Saturday morning program that we had going on. And so the fall of 2007, I kind of inherited the kind of volunteer role of leading a group of 10 or 15 people that wanted to take on that kind of mentoring opportunity through the church there. And now this is kind of a seems like a long story, but it all fits in because it definitely was a process for the Lord to get us where we are today. But so in that fall of 2007, I was kind of managing 10 or 15 people in my spare time, making sure background checks were ran through the church, and we, got together and took all the kids bowling here and there and different game nights and things like that, in addition to our one-on-one time with them. And then a friend of mine told me about a ministry in Dallas, but over in West Dallas, called Mercy Street. And he said, this is actually a Christian organization that's mentoring a couple hundred kids in an environment very similar to South Dallas, and think you could, learn a lot from them. And Trey, the founder over there, and he's a really nice guy, and you should email him. And I said, okay, that sounds great. And so in December of 2007, I went and met with Trey Hill at Mercy Street, and they were about 5 years into their ministry at the time, and just learned a lot about their vision and their environment in West Dallas that was very, very, very similar to South Dallas. And something got in me in that meeting where my wheels were just turning, I suppose, and I think I was kind of ready to move out of the job I was in. And so by the end of that meeting, I had asked Trey, the first time I ever met him, if he would hire me quick soon. I said, I can give my 2 weeks and you can hire me and you can send me to South Dallas, and I will start doing what you're doing over here, and we'll start doing that in South Dallas. And Trey is a very, very, very kind man who I'm sure wanted to say yes, I suppose, but was wise enough, and now I understand that decision far more than I ever would have at the time, but was wise enough to say, no, I can't do that right now. We've got a ton of kids here in West Dallas, and our hope is to reach all of them, and we haven't accomplished that yet. And several of our staff have chosen to move into this neighborhood, and we're really trying to make this neighborhood our home and focus here, because there's a ton of work to do here in West Dallas. But I do think that someone needs to be doing this in South Dallas, and I will help you in any way that I can if you want to go get your 501c3 and do that. And going back to being raised in a tiny town of 1,500 people, I just turned 26. I had no idea what a 501c3 was at the time. Of course, I didn't tell him that, but I just took what he said and was like, okay. Basically, I just heard no, I won't hire you and do that. And so I said, okay, well, thank you, and thanks for meeting with me. I'll let you know if I need anything in the future. So I walked out of there maybe a little discouraged, but not too much. And then it's time for Christmas. It was December, and just went about my life. And then the following month was contacted by a pastor at the village, which where I was attending, but I didn't know him at the time. And he said, I heard about your group and you all down in South Dallas mentoring, and I was just hired a couple months ago, and I want to figure out how to support you all from the church. How can we support you all as mentors? So I called over to a ministry in West Dallas to talk to Trey Hill to learn from them about how we could support you. He told me that you had just been in his office the day before, and so I don't think I need to meet with him. I think if you've already met with him, then you and I just need to meet and we need to connect. And said, okay, that sounds good. And so we met. That was Joe Ader was his name. He's no longer on staff, but a very encouraging and entrepreneurial minded person, as the Lord would have it. So when we got together in January or February of '08, we talked about everything we were doing. We talked about what I learned at Mercy Street, and then I'm assuming I mentioned to him that Trey had said I should start a mentoring program, that Mercy Street wasn't going to replicate in South Dallas, but that I should do that. And so Joe, being the entrepreneur that he is, or the movement of the Spirit, whatever was going on there, just said, well, why don't we do that? And I just kind of looked at him like he was crazy. And he said, well, let's spend a few months getting to know people in South Dallas and looking around and making sure there's not already a program there. Maybe there's already a mentoring program, and we go through them and it's already set up. And I said, okay. So we spent the spring of 2008 meeting with mentoring programs that we could kind of try to implement in South Dallas. They all have kind of different philosophies and different ways of doing things, and looking around to make sure there wasn't a Mercy Street ministry already going on in South Dallas. And basically just came to the conclusion that the Lord was that there was not a ministry on a large scale. There was a really small mentoring program for a select group of kids, but on a large scale like Mercy Street, that there wasn't anybody doing that here in South Dallas. And so by May of 2008, I had decided that I would finish up what I needed to do for the University of Missouri that summer, and give them my notice and see what it was like to try to start a nonprofit and get this 501c3 thing, and see if the Lord gave us enough money for me to survive full time, and really just to kind of take one step at a time and see if it was really what was supposed to happen.
Right. That's what I was thinking was, okay, so you're still 26, right?
Mm-hmm.
When this, so I was wondering, I'm like, were you not freaking out when you're like, okay, I'm going to quit my job and pursue this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, were you worried about how you were going to earn money or pay for things, or?
Yeah. Yeah. So, be it probably many other areas of our life, there's just not a handbook that says, here's exactly how you need to do it, and it needs to go this way. So, there are many people that maybe even at this point would still say it was unwise to quit your job with, it was $900 or $1,000, I think we had in the bank on the day that I came on full time. Some people think you should raise, your full year's budget, or, 6 months or whatever. But either way, I knew that the village was going to start giving in the following month, and I knew that there were people that believed in what we were doing, and mentors who were already on board. But yeah, it was. I wish I could say that I trusted the Lord and I just knew that it would all work out. But at the time it was something that was always in the back of my mind, and I did kind of keep an ongoing list of, like, well, I could apply to sub with DISD, so every once in a while I could sub, and if I need extra money that way, or maybe I need to get a part-time job, and but it never had to happen, and the Lord has provided everything we've needed for 8.5 years at this point. So
That's good.
yeah.
I would have been a nervous, like, I have to know, like, I guess that makes me type A, but I have to know, like, the way ahead of time before it, like, I need to know what's going on 4 years from now when I'm, just barely thinking about an idea. I need to know what it looks like and how I'm going to get there. So I would be stressed out.
Yeah, again, I mean, I don't know what it was. I mean, I don't know if it was just a combination of, 3 years of admissions for the University of Missouri was done and over with, or, I don't have a spouse. I don't have anybody dependent upon me, any kids. So I honestly, I don't really know. I just know that I did it, and the Lord provided, and still to this day, trusting the Lord is something that I need to remind myself and work on regularly. But um, I guess he got us through. So
Right. Yeah. And yeah, so you said that this has been Champions of Hope has been going on for 8 years now.
yeah, we are in our ninth school year right now, but
Okay.
yeah, a little over 8 years.
So, how did you end up learning about how to run a nonprofit?
Yeah, I've learned a lot about myself in my time at Champions of Hope, and I guess one of the things that has been confirmed, if I didn't know it already, but is just that I learn by doing, and so that leaves a lot of opportunity and holes for mistakes, and mistakes sometimes have major consequences, and sometimes they don't have much consequence at all. But yeah, I really just learned a lot by doing. And as I mentioned, Mercy Street and Trey Hill and his staff, I mean, he kept good to his word in doing whatever he could, in the time limitations of being devoted to his own ministry to help and guide me and answer phone calls. And then obviously, when you establish a nonprofit, you have to have a board of directors. Technically, you only have to have 3 people, but we've already are always had at least 5 or 6 people that have different areas of experience and expertise. And so, one of the things that I mean, I think I just started doing quickly, and I think is wise for anyone trying to start any sort of business, is seeking out help and seeking out advice and wisdom. And when you need something, you have to be the one who calls and calls back and calls again and is very kind and gracious. But if you really need to talk to someone because they know what they're doing, then you got to be persistent and respectful of their time. But if you need to learn from someone or gain from someone else's wisdom, then I guess following through and following up is just something that I had to do a lot of if I really wanted to grow in what I needed to learn and understand.
Right. Yeah. And that's scary for a lot of people. A lot of people kind of stop it there. Well, like at the point of, I don't know how to do this. And if they don't get an answer out of a comfort zone area from people they know or something like that, they just kind of stop it right there. Or, if somebody isn't available to help them, it's kind of a roadblock for them. But that's a really impressive trait to be able to say, like, no, I need to know this, so I'm going to like pursue the people that can give me that knowledge and really strive towards that ultimate goal. That's
Yeah.
yeah. So were there any
Yeah.
major frustrations in creating Champions of Hope?
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say in the creation I mean, there are still frustrations, of course, now, but I would say one of the um, early frustrations, but now looking back, you realize that there's just times and seasons, and people that are committed to not only to helping you, but maybe committed to being a huge part of the establishment of an organization may not stay around after the second year or the third year. And, so I think to some degree it was probably maybe even an unhealthy dependence on my part of expecting, uh, just people that committed to doing certain things or being a part at the beginning, that there was just a season that the Lord had them there to help. But that although I've obviously been called for at least 9 years of my life, that it didn't mean that everybody else that was used in a vital way was called to be there the whole time. And so I guess the frustration there is really just the lesson of learning not to take things personally, and in leadership and influence of any kind, you have to learn to have tough skin a little bit, I suppose, or really maybe that's just not taking things personally and learning to be faithful to your call, regardless of other people, being able to keep riding that along with you.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. Being faithful to your call. Yeah, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn most about yourself or maybe others in working with these kids and creating this organization?
Yeah. Well, I've learned a ton about myself, that's for sure, and a ton. I guess probably the flip side of that coin is maybe really a ton about the Lord, and I know this might sound funny or way too John Piperish or something, but I'm not big on, I don't read a lot of theology or go into kind of the deep theology stuff, but I had heard enough to recognize this idea of absolute depravity or total depravity or whatever it is, but basically that like even my best efforts at Champions of Hope were really just like filthy rags to the Lord, and but in that he kept things going despite me. And so a very simple example that almost reduces it to being almost not even as powerful as it should be, but like if I spent 8 to 10 hours writing a grant for $25,000 and get an immediate no, and then 2 weeks later an unsolicited check for $25,000 is just in our mail the next day. And so just kind of this idea that like the farmer, you have to get up and plow the field and till the soil and do what you got to do, but the Lord is going to do whatever he wants when he wants to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And so probably just a lot of pride that I could make things happen in the beginning, and I'm certain that is still there in me every single day, but that ultimately the Lord has to make it happen. And even despite us, in spite of us, he'll just do things that we could have never made happen without him.
Right. So let's get into how Champions of Hope works. So when you're a child, how do you get involved in the organization? How do they seek mentorship?
Yeah. So we focus specifically on the South Dallas community. So not all of Southern Dallas, but the neighborhood right around the Texas State Fairgrounds. So
okay.
For the school system, there's 2 high schools here, Lincoln High School and Madison DISD schools. And so the feeder patterns into those schools include 5 or 6 elementary schools. Right now, we're only able to partner with the three largest of those elementary schools here in our community. And so every fourth grade student receives an application in September or early part of their fourth grade year. And our staff does a little 20-minute presentation and explanation of what a mentor is and what a mentor isn't, and just kind of helping the kids understand what that is. And then every child gets to take that home for their parent or guardian to make that choice to read the information and get that back to us. And then from there, we have the parent's phone number and information, and we call and set up a time to come do a home visit. And just to further clarify, in case the parents didn't read all of the information, or if they don't, they might have questions or whatever. Mm-hmm. We two staff at a time go out together to meet with that family, unless they happen to already have a child in the program or something. But to do a home visit just to make sure they understand what they're signing up for, and that we really want that mentor to get to know them as a parent as well, or as whoever the guardians and the primary providers are for the children, that we want the mentor to be in a relationship with them and support them and how they're raising the child, or alongside them as they raise the child, and just make sure. And more than 9 out of 10 times, they still want to move forward with that. But, occasionally a parent didn't realize that it wasn't something that just goes on right after school or at a center or something like that. And sometimes they don't opt into that, but almost always they do.
That's awesome. And I was watching a little snippet of a video I guess it was a promo video to kind of show how or what is being done in your program. And I had seen that some mentors had been with their mentees, I guess if you want to call them, for so from like 4th grade all into high school.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. And that is not a realistic expectation of every mentor, okay, but that is the hope. And that would be, the hope in the ideal situation, that it would work out that way. Right. But it can't always, and we completely understand that. But yeah, those mentors. So we're actually in the 9th year of the program. So that means that those original 4th graders are just now seniors in high school. And so, I believe there's 7, 8, or 9 of those mentors still in the program. A couple kids are with their second mentor. They got rematched with a second mentor, mm-hmm. And they're still with them. But yeah, we have photo walls in our office that show all the different matches at the different stages they've gotten to, and it's really cool. And it's cool enough just to know that a random person who signed up to mentor has been able to maintain a relationship with a random kid and family for 8 years. I mean, that in itself most people would be impressed by. But if you could sit around with our staff, that we could just talk about Chris and Jacole and all the different stories we know about the different things they've gone through together, or Jack and Keith and Susan and Portia. I mean, we could just, remember when she couldn't get a hold of her for 2 months and she didn't think she was going to mentor anymore, and then this happened, and then, and now, everything's great. And remember when we were praying that they could have deeper conversations or share the gospel, and then Keith called and said, "Can I go with you to church on Sunday?" Called his mentor. Like, I mean, the stories and the highs and the lows, I suppose, the mountains and the valleys of those relationships are just enough. Well, they're enough to keep me getting up and going to work every day and doing things that I don't always necessarily enjoy. But yeah, every one of those matches has so many stories that are just proof of God's faithfulness in what He's doing with Champions of Hope.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just watching that one video, I was like in tears, and then I had my husband watch it. I'm like, you need to see this, and then I'm watching his face to see when he gets misty eyed or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
like I think it would be so powerful and just so cool to hear um, those seniors talk about what a difference their relationship with their mentor has made from fourth grade all the way through high school. Because I can imagine just by
Mhm.
those few things, like, hey, he like I called him and told him I wanted to go to church one Sunday, and just like the ripple effect that it's created in their life from fourth grade to senior year. That would be awesome to see or to hear those original kids and their stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you guys have, I saw somewhere that you guys have, what, 50 kids that still need to be matched with a mentor?
Yeah, every September, like I said earlier, they our applications go home, and so this fall we added our third elementary school and have we matched two kids yesterday, and so I think that brings our waiting list to 56 right now. So the fall is when we have the highest amount of kids on the waiting list, and we just keep working all year long to get them matched as soon as possible.
How do you guys find more mentors?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're always
Okay. You're like, I don't know. I need, can you,
yeah,
yeah.
we always yeah, one thing we've always said is we've never ran out of kids, but mentors are what we're always, praying the hardest for, and seeking out and having our mentors, remind their friends about the opportunity. But so primarily churches, and as I told the story about how we got started, the Village Church, which was just, I guess, one campus, I suppose, when we started, maybe two, but they've always been a committed partner on board with us, not only with financial support, but with sharing the opportunity and pushing that opportunity from the stage. And so at this point, I would say probably more than half of our mentors are still from the Village, but over 20 other churches are represented in the mentors that we have right now. So we have mentors from 20 to 25 different churches. But yeah, so churches are typically where we target and try to contact a pastor and see if we can get mentioned in a mentioned from the stage is always the best case scenario, but even just listed as a partner or shared, with, community groups that, will let us come in and speak for 20 or 30 minutes at a home group or whatever. And then really, I would say word of mouth from our mentors, just trying to keep them on top of recruiting new friends whenever they can. That's another aspect that has been pretty fruitful, and a lot of those people have already been around the protege before and have kind of gotten a feel for what mentoring is like because of their friend. And then other than that would just be other kind of groups where Christians might hear about us. So the different seminaries in the area and college campuses, ministries, things like that.
Yeah. Man, well, I'll be praying for you guys, because 56, that's a lot of kids, and
Yeah.
I feel like this program like can really make a difference
Yeah.
in their lives. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what is required? Oops, what is required of a mentor when they sign up to do that?
Yeah, great question. So the minimum commitment for mentoring is 2 years, and within that 2 years, we ask for weekly communication with the family, typically with the parent or guardian, just trying to communicate with them and set up the times to hang out, and the expectation for actually hanging out with A protege is 2 to 4 times a month.
Oh, okay. So that's not a lot.
Yeah.
And I noticed on your site also, which I thought was awesome, is that you have a lot of resources for your mentors. So it's not like you're just saying, "Hey, here's the kid that,
Yeah.
here's a kid that you're with. Like, figure it out."
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that we definitely just over time have grown to have even more and more resources, and each child and each mentor are unique and different. So we typically kind of steer away from the word training because it's a it's a relationship. It's just like dating someone new, I suppose. I mean, it's just there's just not going to be any guide for that. It's just a different person that you're going to have to get to know, in a different family, obviously, typically cross-cultural, cross-economic relationships as well. But yeah, we do everything we can. Our full-time staff is probably one of the best resources that we have. Several of us live in the community, so we get to experience life at an even closer, level to what the families and kids are experiencing life as well. But the full-time staff, I mean, I would say the greatest benefit is just um, the collective knowledge of all of the different things that have happened with different mentors, and just kind of advice and encouragement from a perspective of knowing kind of what's a normal, typical, oh yeah, she's in seventh grade. It's normal that now she's kind of ignoring you a little bit and only wants to talk to you, every once in a while about this, or, just for the experience of our staff to be able to just encourage mentors and here's something that you could try, or maybe a way to approach this with the family if this is kind of an issue, or what's typical when the kids transition into middle school and high school and things like that. The staff hold different ongoing, we do call them ongoing trainings or roundtables, which also allow a space for mentors to also share and talk with each other. And so that's just another way for mentors to be encouraged, especially in the first couple years. If you just think you're kind of on an island, or the only one who has a language barrier because the mom and the father don't even speak English, or are the only mentor whose protege is being raised by a great grandmother or something like that. But when mentors can get in the room and hear from each other, and kind of just get to know one another, and be encouraged in the fact that there are other people going through the same struggles, just because of the cross-cultural nature of things, or just the different things that come up, because mentoring is not always easy, and we try to make sure that's clear and understood from the very beginning. But yeah, so staff, the different roundtables that we facilitate to be able to hear from other mentors. We have a handbook that I think is 50 or 60 pages long with different ideas for activities in fourth grade and fifth grade and sixth grade, centered around service, centered around talking about sexual purity. I mean, if our mentors will actually tap into all of the resources that we do offer, I mean, they'd have a good amount of reading and plenty of ideas out there for them, and free activities in Dallas, and somewhat cheap activities, a little bit more expensive, just, yeah, I think we do offer a good amount of resources. But at the same time, the one-on-one kind of case by case situations, they can always reach out to their relationship coordinators to meet up for coffee, or just talk on the phone with a staff member anytime as well.
Yeah, because I mean, you guys have everything from A to Z. You even have recommended music on there,
Mm-hmm.
which I would probably need, because I would be totally uncool to somebody, I think, that's in fourth grade right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We try to books, music, ways to talk about different subjects by, popular books or music or movies right now. And yeah, we try to provide those resources. But
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are your dreams and some of your future hopes for Champions of Hope moving forward?
yeah, yeah. So it's interesting and good to kind of be at this year that culminates the first class of fourth graders. But at the same time, it's like, man, 9 years, that takes a long time for us to really walk out this long-term relational ministry that we want to do. But with that, we've just learned so much. And so, yeah, some of the future hopes are obviously just that, every relationship would last for a long time and be impactful, not only on the child, but on the mentor as well. And those are some of the best stories, is how the mentors have been impacted. But, so as our kids are approaching adulthood, a long-term hope and goal and dream is that they would, become stable adults that in 2 to 3 to 5 years could come back and serve Champions of Hope as a mentor. That was kind of a graduate of our program that was impacted by the program, and then now can come back and serve as a mentor. And then, obviously someday, if even our staff could include some of the youth that went through our program, that would be, I think, a beautiful picture of just the impact that we've had, and then people that want to come back and impact through the organization as well. And so, I mean, we have tangible, definitely a tangible hope of having our own building soon. I mean, someday in the next 3 to 5 years. We grew really slowly. I was the only one on staff for almost 2 years, and then we just grew one staff member at a time, and now we have 7 staff members and a storefront building or space in a building that's suitable for what we do now. But we hope someday to have a center and a large building of our own for our mentoring program to be based out of, and maybe some other more supportive programs that are still committed to long-term relationships, and that the community is best served by people that are going to come and commit for more than just events here and there, but for long-term relationships. And so that's a tangible hope of ours, and just that the Lord would continue to be faithful, and that kids would be saved, and mentors would be sanctified, and families would be impacted, and someday that should look like the whole community being changed as well.
Yeah, that would definitely be a beautiful picture for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that'd be great if you had a center that kids could go to, or even some place where the mentors and the kids can meet up at, or they could do whatever. I think that would be awesome. So I hope that is in the future for you guys, and yeah, I can't wait to see how you guys grow and continue to see the updates and the videos. Do you have a favorite mentorship story that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Yeah, man, it's really hard to have one.
Right.
Yeah, on any given day, what pops in mind is probably different, but yeah, I mean, well, this is kind of a rare, kind of unique situation that came up that sounds a little like this kind of an interesting story to tell, but yeah, one of the stories is a young man in the neighborhood who so he was in 4th grade at the time, and he had well, here, I'll tell it this way. So we have a weekly Bible study at a community center, right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the community, and it's right across the street from an elementary school. So a lot of kids hanging out after school and at the park and behind the center. And so before Bible study started, This is back when I was still having to be to help and be at the Bible studies as well. And nice day outside, and we're out in the back around the playground, and it's a pretty big park, but see off in the distance that there's some kids kind of gathering around, and it's pretty small. They're not teenagers, but kids just kind of like something's about to happen, basically.
Right.
So I'm not I'm not big. I'm 5'2", but I'm, for whatever reason, I wasn't really afraid of what was maybe going down over there. So I started walking in that direction. I couldn't get the attention of one of the male staff, but I was just like, what is happening? I've just got to get over there. And so as I get closer, I see that two boys are about to get in a fight. And in our neighborhood, that's, well, probably anywhere with two boys, like their friends are egging it on, and people want to see it, and they're being encouraged to start this fight. Well, I recognized one of them as one of the boys as a young man who must have turned in an application. I knew he had been in our office before, and I had even seen him stop by and I guess asking staff or following up about his application or whatever. And I thought his name was George, or I remembered, I said, I think that's George. And I'm probably 20 feet away, and they haven't started swinging yet, but they had their fists up and they're about to start hitting. And I just started yelling, probably like a mother, I suppose, but George. I just started yelling, and probably by the third time I was getting close enough, and he heard his name and probably realized he didn't know who it was or that it was an adult, but I don't know that he would have cared. But he looked over and he saw, and then he went back to starting to swing. And the kids, of course, sort of started pulling back because I was approaching. But, I mean, I'm not a very intimidating source coming in there. So but I said, George, just don't do it. Make a wise decision. This is not a good idea. Let's not do this. And was just trying to kind of coach him through, not threatening him, I'm going to get your mom, or, whatever, because I really didn't have anything I could have said like that. I didn't know, hardly knew who he was. But I just said, don't do this. Let's be smart. Let's be wise. And when he looked back at me the second or third time, and he recognized, or he must have recognized me, he kept his fists up, but he said, hey, when am I going to get my mentor? And I said, well, let's talk about that. Let's just get out of this fight, and let's not fight. Let's just talk about that. But let's not, the kids, I think they were kind of a little confused about how he even knew who I was and what he was talking about. And so they stopped egging him on. And the other boy they were the same age. They were small. But so eventually somehow the fight disseminated, praise the Lord. But he said, but he was still kind of riled up, and his face was sweating, and he was serious. And he said, well, yeah, when am I filled that application out, when am I going to get a mentor? And I said, okay. I said, thank you for getting yourself out of that fight. I said, I'll go check on that. I think you're coming up on the list. And he looked and he saw the other staff. He said, oh yeah, there's that guy, there's Billy, he knows. He's the one tells me when I'm next on the list. And he just, took off marching with a disposition of I'm going to go get what I need to get, which I need a mentor. And so, and he has a mentor now. I think they're probably in their third year, at least their third year or their fourth year of mentoring together. And a lot of encouraging stories. The mentors have to send in monthly reports. They don't have to be real lengthy, but we're really encouraged when they kind of send in the stories. And the relationship coordinator over that match is consistently sharing just about the conversations that mentor has with, George. I know his dad has always been away in jail or prison, and then his mom is in or out of jail as well, and he's sometimes raised by an older sister, and the mentor's been able to, step in and provide, provide when football cleats were needed, so he can be involved in different things, and I know he shared once about a conversation that he got to have about the mentor was dating someone, and George got to be around them, and then he got to talk to him about, how you treat a woman, and how, the Lord wants men to treat women and respect them, and what type of decisions he's making, as a mentor, what type of decisions he's making when he's not married to this woman, but he's pursuing her and respecting her, and just kind of outlining a different way that at least, we never want to assume that a specific family isn't trying to teach their children certain things, but the overall community, kids are definitely exposed to plenty of things they're seeing on the streets, on the block, around the parks, and for a mentor to just be able to walk alongside of a child and to be able to show them another way, and other choices that can be made, and hopefully instill in them, the wisdom in those choices.
Yeah. Man, there's so many kids that need that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in
Yeah.
my head when you're telling me this story, I'm just like, like how big of a difference would that make worldwide if something like this organization was available in all areas and all communities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we just need people to step into those relationships. And, you asked the requirements earlier, and I shared those tangible requirements. But one of the notes that I had written down as well was kind of the immeasurable requirements, I would say, are humility and flexibility. And so, God provides for us in those ways, but you just come humbly to these relationships with trusting the Lord and relying on the Lord. And it is scary, and it's not all fun and games all the time, but it's extremely rewarding, and the mentors grow so much as well. But yeah, we're always needing more of those.
So before we end, and before I go on to some of the rapid fire questions that I wanted to ask you, first, where can we find, or what is the site name for Champions of Hope?
Yeah, championsofhope.org. Championsofhope.org is where you can find us. And then we have a pretty active Facebook page as well, Twitter, Instagram.
And that's all Champions of Hope, right? They can find you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and you mentioned the videos earlier. So Vimeo, we have a Vimeo page, and that's where a good amount of our videos, some short, some long, are on that Vimeo page as well.
Okay, and then if people listening want to support you guys in any way, where can they go to find out how they can do that?
Yeah, so through the website as well, there's a give button up in the right-hand corner where you can financially give online. There's also information about our mailing address if you'd prefer to mail a check. Supporting us by prayer is always supportive as well, and anyone could email. Our contact information is on there. My email address, and our office manager Hannah could provide prayer requests as well, or to get on our newsletter for updates and things like that. And then the way to consider becoming a mentor or volunteer at our weekly Bible study, which doesn't have to be a weekly commitment, but at least a monthly commitment. That's all on our website as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure people could find you guys and find out more information. But I just want to acknowledge you in that you're doing an awesome thing. All the stories that you're talking about, and just, I know, and I've had a lot of friends, and myself included, had I had a mentor from such a young age, where that is where I'm learning how to decision make, or kids are learning, that's a lot of identity building, those ages and stuff, and like a lot of kids could just benefit from that. And I could just see the fruit in having a mentor. Yeah. And like you said, how the one George got to see how his mentor dates. Oh my gosh. Do
Yeah.
like if I had somebody to show me the right way to date, or even, from the beginning, that would have been life
Hmm.
changing. So, man, congrats to
Yeah.
you for creating such a powerful thing and having the guts to just get out there and get involved.
Well, thank you. Thank you. A lot of other people um, helped, of course, and are alongside in the formation of what we do. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I also wanted to say congrats because I haven't officially told you congrats. And you're 6 months since you've gotten married, and now you guys are expecting a baby
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
and a new
thought.
journey.
Yeah, I thought I learned a lot by starting a ministry,
Yeah.
but a new level of learning about yourself and learning who's really in control in your life,
Right.
especially with growing a child. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to know what book has been most influential to you.
Yeah. Man, this one's hard. I would say along the lines of what I've dedicated, the last 8 years to with ministry in an urban community like South Dallas, that um, books by an author named Robert Lupton or Bob Lupton. Um, the three that come to mind that have been most influential. One of them's he published probably back in the 80s, but is called Return Flight, and then another one extremely influential is called Theirs is the Kingdom, and then more recently, he's written a book called Toxic Charity that's a little more direct and kind of outlining what's beneficial and what's not beneficial when you're serving urban communities. But Return Flight and Theirs is the Kingdom um, are just extremely powerful books in turning the mirror towards those of us that would typically be associated with the educated middle class that come to environments where people are in poverty and typically undereducated, and it just kind of turns the mirror with the Lord, with scripture and wisdom from the Lord on what we need to see about ourselves and what God might be trying to do in our own lives, in our own hearts, by serving others, and what we really need to examine about our assumptions and our expectations and our pride and our worldview at times as believers, and to really look at our own look inward before we just jump on constantly trying to fix the problems that are easier to see in some communities.
So those books are going on my reading list then, because I need to work on all those things.
Yeah, well, and yeah, Theirs is the Kingdom. Actually, all of those are pretty short. Return Flight and Theirs is the Kingdom are not even 100 pages, and then Toxic Charity might be a little bit longer, but I'd recommend that one to Christian, any American Christian. That yeah, I that's something that we all need to read and understand when we're going to consider the call to do anything here in our own country. Toxic Charity is a book that everyone needs to read.
Awesome. And then if you could empower women to do one thing, what would it be?
Um, yeah, I think I had to think about this one earlier. I think society is going to naturally um, tend to push us towards being people pleasers and believing that as women we're supposed to fit into this certain mold, and that usually kind of people pleasing or always considering the thoughts and approval of man far above approval and the thoughts of the Lord is just kind of what I think our society women to fall into that temptation. And so I think that women just uh, being empowered to really look at what the Lord calls of us and what He says is what a woman is, and just being really mindful of what the world and especially our Southern Bible Belt culture, especially where we are, here in Dallas at least, that what are kind of the expectations and molds that we are directly or indirectly kind of told, but usually indirectly, that we're supposed to fit in, and just to challenge anything that's not what the Lord would agree with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely yeah, it's taken me a long time. That's a big struggle just with all women. If you talk to anybody, is just kind of the opinion of others and
Mm.
approval and yeah.
Fear of man, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. With that might not sound like it's empowering an action, but I mean, really, I think that's where most women need to find
Yes.
freedom in that
Yeah.
particular area, and then that freedom will be the empowerment, most of all, to just be who they've been called to be by the Lord, and then that will probably lead to many other things as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that this past year, especially, I went through the program at the Village Steps, and it was just an awesome experience. But something that was just so freeing was, that I didn't need to worry about other people's opinions, and yeah, so totally letting go of that approval
Mm-hmm.
thing was extremely freeing and definitely lifted a weight for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
If you could go back a year or two and give yourself any kind of advice, what would it be?
Um,
Or it really can be
yeah,
anywhere, whether it's, when you're a teenager or last year, whenever. But what
yeah.
would you wish you could tell yourself?
Um, yeah, I, I would love to come up with a unique or clever answer, but especially in being able to get married recently, and I mean, I had wanted that for a long, long, long time, but finally being able to get married, and even with the ministry, I mean, trusting the Lord is just one thing that I have had to remind myself of a lot in the last 6 months and the last year, is trusting the Lord, and probably sitting down and really reflecting on that, and dialoguing through that with other friends and women, Christian women that know me, and just helping me see all the places and all the actions and thoughts and words that show that I'm trying to control things, and that I'm trying to be in control when I really need to trust the Lord. And then praying more. I mean, I think that's one of the things that is probably the biggest reality that with starting a ministry, and as well as the ministry has gone. If I look back and see how many times I chose to do, and like, I've got to get this done, I've got to do this, I've got to take this action. I know I need to pray, but I'll get to that later. It's amazing that the Lord has even let us get to where we are now, and I pray more now than I did before. But I think praying more is never a waste of time, and not that lengthy prayers are what the Lord is looking for, but just trusting Him to lay my hands down from the action, and what I need to do or control in the moment, and to seek Him and pray. So I know those aren't really unique answers, but that really is what I would need to have kicked myself with a year ago, and 2 years ago, and 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, yeah, that's what I need to remind myself yesterday. Like, I don't even need to go back that far. I just need to remind myself,
Yeah.
like, every day pretty much that, prayer feels so small, but yet, like, it's actually a really big thing. And it's a really big part of having a relationship with the Lord. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's great. I definitely love I love everything that you just had to tell us. So, thank you so much
Yep.
for being on and for sharing your story. I'm excited to see Champions of Hope grow and see updates and
Thanks.
and keep in touch and and hopefully see pictures of a healthy baby soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple more months, but yeah, we definitely keep in touch, and I'll keep you updated on Champions of Hope for sure, because
Yeah.
the Lord has a lot going on, and there's always good things to share.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on, Carly.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. Without you, it would not be possible. Make sure you go and check out the show notes for this episode at today'seden.com/real talk. That's TODAYSEDEN.com/real talk. There you can find all the podcast show notes for all the episodes. Just make sure you go and review and subscribe on iTunes this episode and maybe other episodes if you've listened to those as well. Those just help keep this thing going and also just help to share the message and all this powerful information that everybody and all our guests have to offer from this show to everybody and other women around the world. Until next time, do what they think you can't do.